Hey y'all, Zelda here. I am here today to do my first tarot deck review of Moon Power Tarot. So I'm starting with this mostly because I am still figuring out how exactly I'm going to set up reviews. But this one is an easy review because this is actually my favorite tarot deck. I do have others that I love for different reasons. I also love using the Smith Rider-Waite. I use that one a lot to do readings with, where I really just want very clear messages from guides. But I think everyone has a deck who collects tarot decks like I do that is maybe early on in their tarot reading journey. And for me, this deck felt like I was still learning and using books and studying really with the deck. And I was searching and searching for a deck where the imagery just made sense to me. I felt like I could interpret it. It felt evocative. It felt emotional in a way that I could relate to. And for me, that was the Moon Power Tarot. So this is what the cards look like out of the box. They have a really nice kind of shiny gilded edging. It's probably a little worn down. I will say this is one of probably my most used deck by far. I even use it with my therapy clients. So it is a deck that has been well loved. You can kind of see that there's some wear on the box, but I do love that the box is hard. It's not one of those foldy boxes. I kind of hate those personally, like the card deck boxes. It's not personal. I know they're a lot less expensive, and so it makes sense to keep the cost of different tarot decks down. But I have a couple particularities that I like. So one thing I do want to mention, so you kind of open the box, it's lays on top of itself. I find it really easy to open and close. I like that it's kind of shiny. I like that it's it's not too fancy, so I don't feel weird kind of wrapping it and then putting it in a bag, so I bring it with me. I also really like decks that the top can go underneath so that then I can kind of prop it and put the deck back inside if I have a card pulled out. So those are just I really like those qualities of this simple box. I'm into it. This is a 5 out of 5 tarot deck for me, or whatever scale I'm going to be using. I will say that if you are looking for a deck that comes with a guidebook, this is the guidebook that comes with this deck. At least it was when I got it. That is fine, but it's a list of maybe 3 or 4 maximum terms really for each card. So it's going to be a very limited interpretation that you're going to be able to do purely from the mini pamphlet that's included. But it is nice that they have something in there. Sometimes decks don't have anything at all, and I like that it's not just promotional materials. So onto the deck itself. I really like that the suits, so all of the minor arcana, so the swords, the cups, ace through 10, the wands, and the pentacles, ace through 10, all of them, they all have in-depth imagery. And what I mean by that is, so this is the 6 of wands. And sometimes in decks they have just a layout of the wands, right? They're very minor imagery, sparse imagery. And I feel it doesn't give you a lot to go on when that's the case. Whereas this with the 6 of wands, I really get the feeling of the 6 of wands for me. This is the 2 of pentacles. It just really, it evokes something in me, in my body, in my imagination. I like that a lot of the backgrounds are this starry night type of experience. I will say that I feel this is maybe one of the more gruesome or gritty type of cards in this deck, but there are definitely some intense, I wouldn't say this is happy-go-lucky imagery deck. For me, that doesn't make a lot of sense because I turn to tarot in part to understand some of the depth, some of the intensity of the emotion that I experience. And so I I don't personally often gravitate towards decks that don't have kind of like a lot of like emotional evocation, I guess. However, I can understand that it feels a little bit darker, I think, than certain other decks. I also will say that even though for me this is a pretty transparent deck, it doesn't have on each one like 8 of cups written on it. You have to like kind of notice that the cups are on the person's shirt, that the 8 is up there. And I will say that this is one deck. There are other decks that I've found quite confusing because they're decks where they switch things around and they don't have it written on there, and you kind of have to like decipher, and you like can't use them right out of the box until you, kind of study how to use the deck. I did not find this deck to be that way. Even as like a very early reader, I found it to be pretty straightforward, right? Like, yes, it doesn't say 5 of Pentacles, but there is a pentacle on there. There is the number 5, and they're all gonna have that. They're all gonna have that number at the top. So yeah, this is one of my top decks. I think one of my very favorite cards actually is this one, the 10 of Wands. I think that the way that that decks represent cards that are like contentious in tarot is really, really important to me. And what I mean by that is like the 10 of Swords, the 10 of Wands, the Devil, the Tower. These cards that I think have the potential to be read in a little bit of like a doom oriented way. I think it's really, really important, the choices that decks make. I also really like, I will say that like, it's not only, quote unquote women, I wouldn't say, but I will say that this is like a primarily, like feminine representation, or a femme deck, I'm gonna say. It's not like stereotypical imagery, but there aren't any like mask presenting folks that I've seen in this deck, I don't think. So that's something that I would like consider, you know, depending on whether you feel seen. There are ones that don't have, like the 5 of Cups is another one. I don't know. This just feels very, like there's a lot to read into it. This is not a card that makes me think of like a reductionistic reading of the 5 of Cups, even though it feels like it matches the Smith-Rider-Waite. There's going to be a lot of that imagery, the Smith-Rider-Waite imagery. So it is a good deck, I think, for learning. I wouldn't say it is, like now that I've had quite a few decks, I wouldn't say that it is the easiest learner's deck ever, but I learned with this deck basically. So I'm a little biased in the sense that like, I think it has excellent imagery. I think that it's a very intuitive read. If you happen to be a little bit more creative, a little bit more, just intuitive in how you're kind of picking up imagery, I think it's everything that you like connect with the deck yourself. This was it for me. So I'm gonna do a flip through where I flip through the deck in a different video, so that I can angle the camera towards it and you can just see a flip through of the deck. But the last thing I want to comment on is the cardstock. So I have a very particular desire for my tarot decks. And this might be something that is true for you, and it might be something that isn't. Excuse me, I have something stuck in my throat. So this might be something interesting, and maybe you're like, oh, I hate that. So this is why I'm explaining to you. Everyone has different sensory preferences. I am very particular about certain sensory things, particularly with my tarot decks. One of those is I like a pretty like springy, not too thick card. Like if I bend it, and the reason I like it this way is because I like to shuffle like this. and I like to be able to shuffle it that way. I don't like to do it this way because then I have to bend it too much, but I like to be able to kind of get it that way and then get it together. And I just think that it feels nice when the cards are like a little bit thinner, actually. Not thin as in like paper thin. And I like this combination in particular where it is glossy. It has the shiny edges. I particularly like those. I like shiny stuff. So I like the shiny edges, like the hollow edges. And then I really like the gloss with this particular paperweight. I don't know what the exact paperweight is, but I basically base most other deck feels, like shuffle feels, on this deck because it is just so easy. It feels way sturdier to me than normal card decks. So it feels like it wears a little bit better, and you can kind of like shuffle in any way that you really want. And yeah, it sounds nice too as you shuffle it. Like, sound nice? I just think it does. So yeah, I love that the orientation is, you can't tell if it's reversed. I think that's very clever if you like reading reversals. I think it's cool that you can do that and it doesn't kind of like look like a bunch of upside down cards in your deck. Yeah. So that is my review. This is my favorite tarot deck. I do get that question a lot, but I'm curious if you have tried this out. I am going to do a review of the Mars Power Tarot deck, who is also by Charlie Quintero. Oh, if you would like to buy this deck, Charlie Quintero is the artist, and sixsadgirls.com is where you can go and purchase this deck. I also really like, they have an Etsy, and I really, really like that they have discounted decks when they do new printings. They keep the ones that get like dinged or damaged, and they do discounts. So you can oftentimes get a really good deal on getting a, slightly bruised or something deck, even if it's not perfect quality, but they're still perfect inside. I think that's really great. I would get a deck like that because I don't have an issue. It's going to get kind of beat up once you use it a lot anyway, unless you're getting it as like a collector's edition type of thing. So that's my review, 5 stars out of 5. I'm not sure if I'm going to do a star rating system or anything for these, but definitely would recommend this if the style resonates with you, and you can go check out the flip through that I'm going to post after this to see if you like what you see. Okay, let me know if there are tarot decks that you would like me to review. I have a couple coming up, and if you prefer I do it in like a particular format, feel free to let me know if I don't come up with one before then. Thanks so much, y'all. I'll see you later. Bye.